I just watched a video called the PSP Aesthetic by Lucian, and it made me realize that companies stopped innovating on handhelds after 2017. It officially ended when the Switch died, right? The reason why everyone keeps saying that the PSP and the PS Vita was ahead of its time, it's because companies stopped thinking about what technologies can be implemented in gaming. It makes sense to me why Sony hasn't made anything past the Vita, because everyone was intimidated by mobile phones. And the problem with phones is that they're basically a technological evolutionary dead end. The iPhone literally killed everything with its simplistic design, to the point that everything was just about software. And instead of thinking about how the form factor can enhance the experience of the software like a DS, everyone wanted to focus on more powerful hardware, to the point that the software became more dominant than, instead of the treated as an equal. The software was not treated as equal as the hardware. That was something that I written to my friend. I really botched that up, because this is something that I always find that's very fascinating about technology, or just gaming in general. Because I remember years ago when I was watching the Black Hokage, there was something that he said about how the tech community is a sister community of the gaming community. How many times have I said community in that sentence? Goodness gracious, take a shot, right? But I digress. I think it's insane how the love of gaming has died, or the love of making something that, okay, how can I put this right? I'm trying to think of how can I think about this? Because the DS is a very good starting point, right? I think it was like the DS was like at the peak, because the Game Boy Advance was very much, well, the Game Boy was very interesting, because the Game Boy you can look at it and you can see that it has like some inspirations, or it shared some design philosophies of a Nokia phone, a vertical Nokia phone, because you had the screen on the top and the interface on the bottom, right? And then when you go to the Game Boy Advance, that's a very interesting thing, because it was like it feels like a proto PlayStation, PSP, I mean. Oh, sorry, something caught my eye. Oh yeah, sorry. Anyway, it was like a proto. Oh, it's probably a cat. My doorbell rang. It was probably a cat. But it was a proto PlayStation in a way, because you had the main screen on the center and then the buttons on the side, right? And it was still very interesting at its time, because I don't know if there was anything that was like it. I guess you would have like the N-Gage, or I don't. It wasn't new per se, because like it wasn't new per se, but it was a next step, right? Because it was still the Wild West. Everybody was still doing their own thing, right? And beyond that, you would have the DS. That was the pinnacle of the form factor, like in lockstep with the software. And when the phones came, the DS and the PSP, when they came out around similar times, it was a no-brainer why the DS won, because the DS was cheaper, and it had a lot of more. I don't want to say it had a lot of better games, because there was like a lot of good bangers on the PSP, but the price is a huge factor. And as we go on through this timeline, not really looking at Nintendo stuff anymore, just looking at the PSP to the Vita, and then after the Vita, and from 2013, you would see Nintendo make the Switch in 2017, right? And when you look at the form factor of the Switch, it was just the Vita, but without the back touchscreen and extra and trigger buttons, and like extra buttons for like the triggers and whatnot. And when here we are at this current time when it comes to handhelds, the coolest handheld that's out right now is just any third party handheld that wants to emulate the 3DS, that wants to emulate the DS form factor, because that was the last time we saw something that wanted to. We saw something that wanted to, like, implement something that's different. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say new, right? But it was, I guess it was marketed as a new at the time, right? Speaking through, like, nostalgia goggles. You know what I'm saying? But I digress. The weird thing that I wanted to make this video about was how very interesting it is where technology, the hardware, and I'm not talking about the CPU or the graphics or, that's software, the CPU, or like the components that pushes the more frames or more triangles on the screen. I'm talking more about the form of it, how the form of technology, it's kind of like a portal in a way of how to interact with the digital world. Think about VR, right? And it sucks how VR depending on how you say it, it kind of sucks how VR stopped being a huge craze, and it only found a small niche of people. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's where gaming really needs to be, where everybody's pocketed in their own subsect of entertainment. But the thing about VR, why it didn't take on, was the price at the time. And not a lot of software was promoting it. And the only notable software that people would only play with the VR was either, I forgot, what was that game? It was that game where you had like lightsabers and you just like hit the boxes on beat. That and VR chat. Other than that, and VR chat wasn't even a VR exclusive type game. It just enhanced. It was the way to play VR chat. And if you didn't have VR chat, you were just like not serious. You're just like, you're just in it like one step in and one step out. I personally had a VR headset because I thought the opportunities to make 3D animations with 3D animations with VR was a cool idea, but the technology really wasn't there yet. So I guess it was cool because I got to play a couple of VR games, but other than that, it followed the same fate as was it the PSP Go or PSP Move? Not Go. That's not the PlayStation. I forgot what it was called, but remember when the PlayStation wanted to imitate the Kinect and the Wii at the same time? It was the PS3 era, right? It was like that. When people realize, oh yeah, you can also say with the Kinect era with the Xbox, because nobody wants to stand up and move around while playing games because that's just not comfortable. And I think where the love stopped when it comes to making handhelds is the companies, the main companies stopped looking into technology of how to make these gimmicks fun. How can like future technologies can shake hands with the future games. And there's something that I want to say, but I can't express, where in the most rawest sense, it's like the technology it's like another sense of touch or communication. And games are a way, is a digital medium to express that new form of communication or touch or interactivity with the world. Technology seeing technology as a tool to interact with the world, right? And when the phone came out, everything just became bricked in the form and the interactability with it. When you want to look at the PS Vita, for example, I'm looking at one right now. I'm just looking at it. It's cool. I've been playing it for the past couple of weeks. I've been playing the God of War series. It's amazing. I love it. But the thing is, when the PS Vita came out, that was during the time where Sony was shaking in their boots about the upcoming mobile market. Everybody was afraid that mobile gaming would take over actual gaming. And funny how after everything is said and done, mobile gaming just took its own. They just took it their own route. They took their own side, and not touching actual core gaming, handheld gaming at all. But at the end of the day, it's still the form factor. It was pretty cool in the sense that it had a touch screen on the front and the back. However, and the whole gyro sense, but it kind of stopped there. There's a lot of cool things that developers were able to do with the technology, but it just kind of stopped there. But yeah, I guess that's all I got to say with this video. Anyway, take care. Bye.